Hello and welcome to the ninth annual Aspen Ideas Festival. Thank you very much, Kitty Boone and your staff. Where's Kitty? There are a whole lot of cool new things happening. I just came from the gallery in Pepka building in which there is online and digital education. We all talk about it, but you can actually play with it. And so I was playing with the core curricula. I know Linda Resnick has helped design some of the stuff for our core curricula, but also amplify all the technology things. Right after this, I think the Buckminster Fuller Dome is turning into a planetarium. Many of you didn't know we had a Buckminster Fuller Dome, but Bucky Fuller actually spent a lot of time at the Aspen Institute in the 60s, created the dome. Amy Marjoram helped rescue it, and it's now pretty much, if you just walk straight out, you will see it. But the Bucky Dome is an example of a really big idea and bringing ideas together. So I'm glad that has gotten resurrected. In introducing Ideas Festival each year, I try to talk about an idea that I might have been wrestling with over the previous year. After all, it is an Ideas Festival. And the one that has really bothered me and I've been focusing on is an idea that people have been wrestling with for the past 10 or 15 years, really, but it's called the big sort. It's a fact that in America, as Michael Sandel said a couple years ago when he was here, we're going through a skyboxing phenomenon. It used to be that people of different backgrounds, different interests, different beliefs, all tended to mix and mingle a lot, find common ground, whether it was in going to the same public schools, serving in our national service together. But in the past decade or so, we've had a sorting out where people tend to hang around with people of their own beliefs, their own backgrounds, their own philosophies, whether it's in the blogosphere or on the talk radio dial. There tends to be a cul-de-sacing. We all get into an echo chamber and just hear people like ourselves. Benjamin Franklin taught us that ideas come when people of different backgrounds and different beliefs tend to get together. They tend to see things. And that is what, sorry about that, that's what we're trying to do. This was the reminder to turn your cell phones off. So everybody pull out your cell phone now and turn it to off. What Franklin taught us was that ideas come when people congregate, when people get together, when people bounce things off of one another. I think it's true of art as well. I mean, if you look at why jazz happened, it's because everybody from returning veterans from the Spanish-American War a century ago met up with Creoles and freed slaves and people from the Sanctified Church and people who knew spirituals, Creole orchestras, uptown. And all of that mixing and mingling of people of different backgrounds and different ways of thinking sort of added to the creativity. As I see us losing that some in our society, where the places that we find common ground are disappearing, where people aren't all going into national service, they don't all go to, the local high school, I've thought of us trying to figure out ways that we can kick that up a bit. I mean, that's what Ideas Festival is all about. It's about people with different ways of thinking, different beliefs, looking to your left, looking to your right, and seeing if we can find common ground. We also try to bring, people from different backgrounds, different thoughts. I want to ask the Bezos scholars, for example, maybe y'all would stand up, Jackie and Mike. Bezos, I always bring the Bezos scholars to the Aspen Institute from different places. Thank you. And so a few of the ideas coming out of last year's Ideas Festival and wrestling with this notion of the big sort are going to be the focus, I hope, of the Institute over the next couple of years, one of which, as you probably heard some of you, Stan McChrystal and others, we've started the notion of national service being both an opportunity and an expectation for every kid in America. In other words, join a corps for a year, whether it's military or civilian, whether it's a conservation corps or the Marine Corps, but get out of your zip code, out of your comfort zone, and spend a year in a service corps, just like people of my parents' generation did. That's where you meet people of different backgrounds, where you get exposed to different ideas. So over the next year, since General McChrystal mentioned the idea or pushed the idea of national service at Ideas Festival, we are going to create a program that tries to start National Service Corps. We're also doing something later this summer called the Action Forum, which is like an ideas forum, but we're going to take the ideas and have people from around the world who are part of our Young Leaders program and say, okay, turn thought into action. And also, you know, over the past 10 years, we've built up the Aspen Institute in a variety of ways. The focus for the next few years, led by I saw Margot Pritzker, Amy Marjoram, and others, is simply on scholars and scholarships, to make sure all of our programs and all the different types of programs we intersect with, we can bring people on scholarships or as scholars, people who come with different interests and different backgrounds, and be part not just of Ideas Festival, but of Action Forum, of our national service thing, of all of our policy programs. When I was in college, there was a minister we had, some of you may have met him before he died because he used to come to Ideas Festival, Peter Gomes, and he gave a wonderful sermon once about the problem when you go to college or in your place like Aspen is that you learn exclusivity. You say, okay, I got to admit it. It's an exclusive place. I got to come here. It's kind of exclusive. I'm on a panel. This is exclusive. He said, what we forgot to tell you is that it's not all about exclusivity. It's about inclusivity. It's not about seeing how much you can be part of something exclusive, but how many people you can bring along and how many people you can include. When Benjamin Franklin was at the Constitutional Convention, they were tearing themselves apart. It really had been a time almost as bad as the U.S. Senate and House today. They were tearing themselves apart on the big state, little state issue and everything else. And Franklin said something quite interesting. He said, the older I get, and he was like 81, twice as old as the average age in that room in Independence Hall. He said, the older I get, something really surprising happens to me. I realize that I'm fallible at times. I realize I've been wrong. And what I do is I look to my left, I look to my right, I look at the people around me, and I think they may be right about their beliefs and ideas. Maybe I should listen to them. Maybe I should find common ground. That is the notion of what we try to do both here for the past 60 years at the Institute, but I hope we'll each do this week and maybe in the year to come, which is look to the person to the left, person to the right, and say, maybe I should listen to their idea. Maybe we shouldn't all sort ourselves out based on the beliefs we came in with. And secondly, now that I've listened to their idea, let me see where we can find common ground. Because ideas come from listening to the people on both sides of you, and ideas are put into action when we find that common ground. So that to me is what I hope we do this week. Look around you, listen to the person next to you, find the common ground, and put thought into action. Thank you very much, and let me introduce my partner, David Bradley.
How's that? It just feels like old friendship. This is our gathering once again in the Greenwald Pavilion. It's the 9th time for some of us. This is my favorite spot. This is my favorite piece of real estate on any stage in the United States. There's nowhere I'd rather be than welcoming you back to the Aspen Ideas Festival. The Atlantic pours its heart into this festival, but in truth, the festival is the masterpiece of Walter Isaacson, Kitty Boone, Elliot Gerson, and their colleagues. The Atlantic's just privileged to be along for this work. Many of you know Walter personally. If you know Walter, you know the greatest intellectual impresario of our era. You also know the, in his spare time, America's favorite biographer. Walter operates on an every 3rd or every 4th year basis, putting out a new biography. So last year was Steve Jobs. This year is an off year, but I wanted to bring you some good news. The New York Times has just announced that though Walter hasn't chosen his next subject yet, his next book has just sold 790,000 copies and has gone to #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. It is the first time a non-existent book has ever gone to the top of the list. You can imagine the frustration of people like David McCullough, who gets bumped down one spot by a book Walter keeps meaning to write. My role here is purely administrative. I have 3 announcements. 2 of them I got as I came into the tent. Let me read them to you. First, if there is a pass holder in the audience, a Mr. Snowden, please know that your party will meet you immediately after the program as you exit the tent. Any exit, actually, it pretty much doesn't matter. And second, if there's a Mr. Strauss-Kahn here, Aspen Meadows wants to relay that it doesn't know why your room hasn't had any maid service. They understand it's been 5 days now, and they're looking into the problem. And finally, the announcement of a little more consequence. You know how when something seems important, but you forget to mention it, and then a little time goes by and it feels less relevant, but you really, really should have mentioned it. But if you didn't mention it, it's like a sin of omission. It's not something you meant to do. And anyway, Walter and I keep forgetting to mention something to you, and so I'm going to mention it to you now. That is that several years ago, we sold the Aspen Ideas Festival, the whole franchise, to the National Security Agency. We are now a front organization for the NSA. It is no big deal. It's kind of like an employment issue. Walter and Kitty and Elliot and I are all government employees now. Technically, the campus is a military facility, what with the NSA being owned by the Department of Defense and all that. Did you know that the director of the NSA by law has to be a 3 or 4-star general? So anyway, the reason this comes up now, that I'm raising it now, is the NSA has decided on a whole new program of transparency. Several weeks ago, the director of the NSA was in a meeting with the staff, and he said, you know, all these secrets, this classified stuff, it's so 1990s. Why don't we hire a 30-something contractor to just go around the world and explain what the NSA does? And everyone said, what a good idea. So here, at what is now known as Fort Aspen, you're going to see evidence of the NSA. There will be NSA signage, branding everywhere. They haven't really gotten the hang of it yet, but I want to show you their first attempt. This is the NSA signage to my right. I know some of you over here can't see it. It's a kind of clean, sublime look. So anyway, to honor our new partnership with the NSA, I wanted to do 2 things. I wanted to do a background primer on the NSA, a slideshow, and then I wanted to talk you through some of the benefits that come with our NSA partnership. So let me begin with the slideshow history. Are the slides up? I can't see from here. Okay, it should go without any argument that the slides that follow are strictly off the record. I think it's very reasonable that the NSA asks, is it really too much to ask you just to respect our privacy at the agency? So let's proceed to the presentation. I think the title page shows a new sense of optimism at the NSA, the National Security Agency. Oh, yes, we can. The next slide shows the sitting director of the NSA. This is 4-star General Walter Isaacson. There was an awkward moment in Walter's confirmation hearings when the Senate came to understand that Walter has more names in his Rolodex than the NSA does in its global database. Now I'll show you some photos from NSA archives. These are real photos. They're uncommon. The roots of the NSA trace back to the Army Signal Intelligence Service in the Second World War. So here you see the 2 disciplines at work. This is the encryption and the deciphering of secret messages. The NSA was not established as its own agency until 1952, the very end of the Truman administration. And the government didn't admit it had such an agency till 1957. So while we're pausing in the 1950s, let me tell you a little known fact. The NSA is the world's largest employer of mathematicians. So what was the NSA's mathematicians' big contribution back in the 1950s when they got this started? Well, much of that is classified, but what we do know is that they organized Miss NSA beauty pageants. This is a real photo. They didn't do it just 1 year. They did it straight through the 50s and into the early 60s. This is what mathematicians do when you let them run an agency. Here are a couple current day photos. This is an analyst working current counterterrorism. He's seated in this larger room. This is the Threat Operations Center at NSA headquarters. Today, the NSA is the world's largest intelligence agency. Here you see a shot of the agency headquarters in Fort Meade, Maryland. It's 25 miles from downtown Washington. The central building there is 4 times the size of the US Capitol. To my knowledge, there is no map that shows all of the NSA facilities in the United States or globally, but it's pretty straightforward to put together from private sources a map that gets likely the NSA facilities in the continental US. So let me show it to you. You see the red star right by Washington? That's the Fort Meade headquarters. Immediately to its lower left, you'll see a purple triangle. That is an interception center in Sugar Grove, West Virginia. Let me read you a description from the New York Times of this interception center. Deep in a remote, fog-layered hollow near Sugar Grove, West Virginia, hidden by fortress-like mountains, sits the country's largest eavesdropping bug. Located in a radio-quiet zone, the station's large parabolic dishes secretly and silently sweep in millions of private telephone calls and email messages an hour. This facility intercepts every international message coming from the Atlantic, across the Atlantic. So way over across on the west coast, in Yakima, Washington, you will see another purple triangle. This is the intercept center that gets all the messaging that comes from the Pacific. Then around the country, marked by pink pins, are 11 what are believed to be domestic intercept stations. If they exist, they are sitting directly atop Verizon and AT&T switching centers. And then, of course, there's much news about the PRISM program. This is Google, YouTube, Microsoft, Facebook, AOL, Apple, all of which have received court orders to release all of their metadata. So how much eavesdropping are we talking about? Well, we're talking about a world of it. Every day the NSA intercepts 500 quintillion pages of text. What's a quintillion? That's 10 to the 18th power. So while we're talking right now, the NSA is intercepting 1.7 billion phone calls, email messages, text messages, and so forth. Quoting the New Yorker here, which is so hard to do. I proofed the grammar, so it's better. The NSA is the largest, most costly, and most technologically sophisticated spy organization the world has ever known. So here you get a sense of why Walter and I are so excited for all of us now to be a part of the NSA. And what I want to do is enumerate the benefits for you, which you will see on campus. I'm going to go over 5 of them. First, you know the inconvenience of these plastic passes hung around our necks? Kitty has asked me to encourage all of you to simply throw them away. We are a badge-free campus now. In the event, the NSA has given us an Aspen Ideas Festival drone, which is running over the campus 24 hours a day. With facial recognition, you can enter the campus. We will know you're here immediately. And everywhere you go, every hour, you never need feel alone again. This one's a minor inconvenience, but you know when you're at a meeting or a conference and you want to check your email and you go to your iPhone or your BlackBerry on your lap and you look down, but everybody knows what you're doing? Well, as a service for all of our pass holders, the NSA is going to live sweep the text and telephone messages that you are receiving right now as we talk and put them up on a screen for you so that you don't have to look down. So let me give you an example. The NSA has been doing this for about 20 minutes for our audience right now. Let me show you a summary of what we've got. So since the session began, our audience has received 28 text messages, 43 missed calls, and 122 emails. Now what I want to do is show you what exactly has happened in the last 60 seconds. So on this NSA screen, you can see to the left the missed phone calls, and way to the right, you can see the email messages. But let's focus on the live texting that's taking place right now. What the NSA has done is they've stripped the name of the texter from the message, so there's no way you can figure out who wrote these messages. Let me read it to you for those who can't see it. This is a live conversation. Somebody with the initials AMS says, "I tell you, women can't have it all." Someone named SS says, "Can too." AMS responds, "Cannot." SS responds, "How would you know? How about leaning in for a change?" AMS says, "That is so hackneyed." SS says, "Well, it's not as bad as the world is flat." And somebody, TF, comes in and just says, "Hey." A third improved service is what we call advanced speaker text. So each evening, the NSA is going to sweep the laptops and the iPads of all of the next day's speakers, find the speaker's notes or the full text speeches, and put them up on the Aspen Institute website so you can read ahead on what's coming. So for example, David Brooks is about to give a presentation. We swept his site, and he wrote a really sweet note of encouragement to himself. I don't think he would mind my sharing it with you. Let me put it up here. This is David Brooks. Note to self, be deep. No, be funny. Nobody likes deep. This is a disaster. I wonder if Friedman gets nervous. I wonder if he gets paid. Please don't make me follow up Cory Booker. By and large, the NSA has asked nothing in return for these services, but Kitty has given them a NSA track, their whole programming track. Let me show it to you here. This is a bit of an experiment for the festival. This is the first mandatory track that we've ever had. You are required to go to these sessions. We're going to open with the Bill of Rights. Do we really need all 10? And then one last benefit, if I may. In a perfect world, you wouldn't even see this benefit. That is that the very presence of the NSA has created a much safer campus. Some of you may remember that last year I cautioned you about increasing bear attacks here. That is no longer a concern. The NSA is everywhere. May I ask you to do what Walter was talking about in the same spirit, actually. Look to your left, to the person to your left, and look to the person to your right. It is overwhelmingly likely one of you is an NSA security officer. So Walter and I saw an instance of this added security yesterday when we were out on the grounds preparing for your arrival. In a few minutes yesterday afternoon, there was a terrifying terrorist incident that unfolded on the campus. I'm going to show you a few photos from this. At 4:30 p.m., a hardened terrorist, in fact, a disgruntled Crown Fellow, attempted to kidnap the irreplaceable Alan Greenspan. Here you see the terrorist escaping with Chairman Greenspan in a golf cart. Always collected, an intrepid Andrea Mitchell coolly reported the incident as breaking news for MSNBC. "Help, help," yelled Alan. "Let me do another take on that," Andrea said to her cameramen. Meanwhile, Kitty Boone, long an NSA SEAL, shot out the tires of the escaping golf cart. And finally, undercover NSA agents Linda Resnick and Barbara Streisand walked the Crown Fellow away. Well, that's the whole of my reporting on the NSA. I have one postscript. You know how in life, no matter how rich or big or important you are, there's always someone who's richer or bigger or more important. It's like that poster of the fish who's about to be swallowed by the larger fish, in turn swallowed by the larger fish. Well, it is true that the NSA, that the Aspen Ideas Festival has been sold to the NSA. But here's the final announcement. It's also true that the NSA has been sold to David Rubenstein. He's a good friend of the Aspen Institute. So in the end, everyone lives happily ever after.
I thought I threw away that photograph. Walter stole a lot of my thunder, like introducing these wonderful scholars that we have from all over the United States and from the Africa Leadership Academy, which the Bezos Family Foundation has for years been bringing to Aspen. And over the week, you're going to hear them ask questions, and they will go home to their own communities and create festivals of their own. And some of them, like our current intern, Blake O'Connor, end up in the White House because of what they do in things like literacy. And we are really thrilled to have you and hope you have a spectacular week. Later this week, we are going to bring another set of high school students. We launched a program called the Aspen Challenge. And again, thanks to the Bezos Family Foundation, we'll be bringing 3 teams of high school students that won a big competition that we ran in Los Angeles to present their ideas about how to solve major problems. And that's a new initiative. Mayor Landry and I were talking yesterday. We hope to bring this to New Orleans next year and possibly to Denver and go across the country. I'm very, very excited about it. welcome to these kids one more time. We couldn't do this program were it not for the Atlantic. And thank you, David, and thank you, Elizabeth Keffer and Cynthia Klein, and all of the editors who help us with content. We also couldn't do this without our incredible sponsors, and I think there's a robust list, I can't see the screen, I hope, that are presented here, and a number of them have really great exhibits, which I hope you'll visit because they're fantastic. I was in the American Legacy Foundation's exhibit today, and there's quite a beautiful image of trees as if it were a painting, but when you go up to it closely, you'll notice that is not exactly what that painting is about. And I really recommend that you go and see what our sponsors have brought us. Tonight in particular, our colleagues at Shell have elected to help us take the ideas that are going to be presented tonight and go viral with them and produce them, and within hours these will be all over the web thanks to Shell, so I thank you for investing in that opportunity. One of the things that just piece of housekeeping, well, I do still have my pass. It is, we do hope that you will download your app, and I found out this afternoon, while everybody was registering, that more than 1,000 people have already downloaded the app. And in a move towards being sustainable and not having as much paper and hoping that you can use the technology a little bit more efficiently, and also with a group this size, making communications changes becomes incredibly important to us, and making communications about changes. And therefore, we will push notices to you if you allowed those, and we will change the agenda within 15 minutes if there's a room change. So do refer to your app all the time and personalize your schedule. We're live streaming every day. You can catch those live streams on your app. You can use social media from your app. It's downloadable on all the Apple devices as well as Androids and Blackberries. And it's really fantastic, and I'm thrilled to have that at the state that it is today for you. But if you run into any issues where you don't understand what a program is about, we actually have live program guides. They have program guide on their back. They're wearing orange to match our book, and they can help you with anything. And hopefully you'll also join us in our social media program using Twitter @AspenIdeas. I get asked at this time of year by everyone, what is the most exciting thing? Who's the most exciting person that you have coming? Come on, tell us what's really, really cool. And I just have to tell you that the whole thing is exciting. And to me, everyone that's coming to speak and share their ideas and their wisdom is really terrific to have, and I don't have any favorites. We always try to add new dimensions to this festival, and one of them, as Walter already mentioned, is the planetarium. The next few days, we are blessed to have a number of important scholars in the world of space and cosmology here to share their ideas and their interests and their incredible research, everything what's happening on Mars to an amazing stargazing event that a number of you are going to go to on top of the Aspen Mountain. But we do have a planetarium, and there'll be shows every single day, whether they're 20 minutes or an hour, and I think it's really a wonderful way to introduce you to the ideas that our respected colleagues in this scholarship are going to bring here. Walter mentioned our learning lab. We have apps from all kinds of educators, and I'll hope you go and try that out because it's the way your children or your grandchildren or your brothers or sisters are going to be learning from now on. It's pretty exciting. We'd really love you to experiment. That's what it's about. We have a digital art exhibit in the Resnick Gallery that is bringing Paula Crown, who many of you know, who's a remarkable artist now and doing much digital work. She's got an exhibit called Inside My Brain, which has to do with her MRIs, but you'll see what is so possible now with digital technology and artistic interpretation, and it's just fantastic, and she'll be talking about that in a couple of days. And then we have a remarkable digital artist named Luc Dubois, who's got an exhibit in the Resnick Gallery as well, which I think for this crowd, and the reason I was excited to bring this work here is it's very intellectual. It's an exhibit of the speeches that 43 presidents have given that have been analyzed by the words they most commonly used. So what you see is 43 eye charts with the words most commonly used by that president in his or her, not her yet. That'll happen. State of the Union addresses. And I tell you, it's a tremendous history lesson, but it's a way to see how you can read and understand data and how data becomes art. And we'll be talking about that later in the week as well. There's not going to be a festival if we don't have these wonderful speakers come, and they give us their time. No one's paid to be here. They love to express what they're working on and their thoughts, and maybe we could give them all a round of applause, because you're going to hear from some in a few minutes, but it's really a tremendous group, and it's a lot of people, and there's a lot of interesting things. We're going to be live streaming every day, which you can get on your iPhone or whatever, so you can see everything. We're actually going to be live on PBS every night from the Ideas Festival with a show that's going to be produced from here. We really hope to spread the word through a lot of devices, and you will be able to see something that you didn't actually get to sit in if you chose another subject. So down to the session. It's a tradition now to kick off this evening and this week of ideas by introducing you to some very diverse and interesting people, some of whom you might recognize, other whom you may not. We hope as you reflect on these presentations this evening that you'll be reminded to try some things out this week and attend the presentations by folks you have never met and engage in discussions you have never had. Our first presenter is someone you've probably only met on television and in the press. A young, remarkable leader, known best, I think, for the most recent shot heard round the world, for the bullet that struck her head only a few months ago, remains a champion for education and women's rights. For our first big idea, Malala Yousafzai.
Thank you for inviting me to this year's Aspen Ideas Festival. But I'm really sorry that I could not come there. But today, I do want to share my idea, my big idea, and that is girls' education. Because there are thousands of girls and boys as well who are deprived from their basic right of education, and they are stopped from going to school as well. So we must fight for their rights. We must fight for our rights. And education is the most important right. And when we get education, then we can bring change in our society. And if we educate one girl, it means we educate the whole society. So let us work for it together.
Hey there. My name's Charles Best, and my big idea began 13 years ago at a high school in the Bronx where I taught history. My colleagues and I were spending a lot of our own money on school supplies, and we had all these ideas for projects that could excite our students about learning. A classroom library, butterfly cocoons, a quilt where each student would stitch a square. I figured there must be people who'd want to help teachers like us if they could see where their money was going. So my students helped me to launch a website called donorschoose.org, where public school teachers create classroom project requests, and donors can choose the projects they want to support. Art teachers are using our site in huge numbers. Their projects request clay, knitting needles and thread, field trips to art museums, paper mache for students to create angry birds in life size. That's why I get to participate in the Citizen Artists Track, and it's why we're giving each of you a $50 philanthropic gift card to spend on a classroom art project of your choice. Our board member, Stephen Colbert, gives this gift of giving to every guest who goes on his show, and now you have the same opportunity to support a project that speaks to you. And if each of you takes this opportunity to foster art in a classroom of your choice, we'll deliver art resources to 10,000 students in low-income communities, which is a pretty big idea unto itself. Thank you.
My name is Mandar Apte. I work in the Game Changer practice at Shell. And also in my life outside of Shell, I teach meditation practice, the Art of Living Foundation. My big idea is called Inner and Outer Climate Change. And I'm assuming that each one of us here has had some argument, conflict with a friend or a near loved one. I have had many. And what I have analyzed is I need three things to reconnect my umbilical cord back with my friend. First is greater self-awareness, more maturity, more life experience. The second would be a sense of belongingness. And the third is a personal commitment that this relationship is much bigger than the conflict. So an intense inner transformation that I'm going to do anything that I can, even if it means saying to that friend that you are right, I'm wrong. I think this applies to the actions of people and planet also. The actions of people, the planet does not like, and the planet is a living organism. So it responds back with actions which the people don't understand. Climate change may be one such action. So in order to address climate change, I think we need to look back at this inner transformation, because both inner and outer climate change is extremely important for both personal and collective response. And that could be a game changer today, is if we can get this inner transformation in people, in organizations, in countries, because climate has no boundaries. It cuts across all boundaries. So this might be a way to reconnect ourselves back to Mother Earth. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jean Case, CEO of the Case Foundation. At the Case Foundation, we invest in people and ideas that can change the world. So for my big idea today, I want to start with a question. And the question goes something like this. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? I work in something called the social sector, the areas responsible for finding and funding some solutions to some of the most daunting problems we face in the nation and around the world. This sector includes academia, it includes nonprofits, governments, and philanthropies. And when you look at the scoreboard of wins in this sector, it's a little bit of a bleak picture. But there are some real bright spots, some breakthroughs where major transformations have taken place. So at the Case Foundation, we went to school on those. And it turns out there's some shared common elements in these wins, if you will. Things we can all apply, and so I want to share 3 of them briefly with you. Number 1, it starts with a big bet, a swing for the fences kind of idea that isn't about incremental change, but rather it's a big vision rallying cry that unites the masses no matter their role. 2, it's about experimenting early and often and taking risks. Ask yourself, have you ever seen innovation where someone didn't take a risk? And perhaps most importantly, it's about accepting that failure might be an option. It was Thomas Edison who said, I haven't failed, I've just tried 10,000 things that didn't work. The point is, failure teaches. It's how we advance. And yet, despite these clear elements that have existed in all breakthroughs, in our American society today, we become just a little too risk-averse, especially in the areas where it's needed most. Many of our old models are broken, and we just aren't keeping pace. So we think it's time to retool, rethink, and try new things. In short, we think we need to be fearless. So if you're in this room, you're an influencer. You play a role in the lives of people and organizations that can make a difference. Encourage them, give them permission to take risks. Let's come together around these Be Fearless principles in the hope that together we can change the world. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Charles Alcock. I'm an astronomer. I'm the director of the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, which among other things proves that you can take 2 radically different organizations, the Smithsonian and Harvard, and have them work together. But I'm glad to follow my previous speaker and start out with a number of questions. And these are questions that have been with us for generations. Why is there any life in the universe at all? It didn't have to be. What was necessary to make life possible on our Earth? around us? Are those conditions present on other planets, perhaps some nearby planets orbiting other stars? If those conditions are present, is there life on some of those planets? Are we really alone or not? And finally, how can we tell? And how can we tell is the question that divides this from speculation, a certain degree of spirituality and curiosity, and real science. Science is about what we can actually answer. And what's remarkable about this moment in time is that telescopes we're designing now, telescopes we aspire to build, will actually bring us close to and maybe even to answering these questions. This is a special moment in history. In the lifetimes of most of the people in this room, we will have provisional answers, at least, for planets nearby as to whether they look promising for life or not. This is a dramatic change in our attitude to the cosmos and our attitude to life. So that's the big idea I want to mention to you. It's not my idea, it's widely held, but this is a storm the barricades time. This is a time when it's really worth investing in astronomy in particular, because there's no more remarkable question, it seems to me, than something that would help us understand: is life unusual or common? Is there life nearby? Thank you.
Hello, my name is James Fallows. I'm a writer for The Atlantic, and my big idea is that we should learn from the Gilded Age. Let me explain. In high school, students are taught to study history's lessons. In college, they learn, or should, to be very wary of this exercise. In theory, historical parallels light our way forward. In reality, they're generally chosen to fit the place we already want to go. But objectively, some eras share more traits than others. And to me, the best match for our current America is the last 20 years of the 1800s and the first 20 years of the 1900s, a span from the Gilded Age to the populist and progressive era, a time of economic, technological, and cultural change that parallel what we've been through. I have a 5-minute list of similarities, but in 2 minutes, I'll just give a few nouns. Globalization, urbanization, industrialization, polarization, Jim Crow, immigration faster than we are experiencing now, a nonstop flow of inventions, first the telegraph and the telephone, the internal combustion engine, the radio, the oil refinery, the combine, and the airplane. By comparison, our past 40 years are nothing, Google glasses and all. I won't go on because time is short and you're already thinking of ways in which their Gilded Age differed from ours. But here is why I use my big idea chit on this theme. That first Gilded Age led to something better. From the extremities of farm and factory life, the populists arose. From the excesses of unregulated new global capitalism came the progressives. After centuries of flat-out pillage, the conservation movement got its start with the national parks. After a post-Lincoln era of disdain for and exhaustion with the art of politics, we had an extraordinary range of people devoted to the public process. People as different as, and as imperfect but important as, Eugene Debs and Tom Watson, William Jennings Bryan, Susan B. Anthony and her colleagues, W.B. Du Bois, John Muir, Ida Tarbell, Upton Sinclair, various Roosevelts, the young Brandeis, and many more. Theirs was the response to the first Gilded Age. We should try, it would be a big idea, to match theirs with ours.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Couric. I'm a lot of things, but we don't have to get into that. I'm here to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart. In the 2 minutes I spent speaking in front of you today, 2 Americans will die of cancer. My big idea is Stand Up to Cancer, which I co-founded with 8 other women, all profoundly affected by this disease. Shakespeare once said, "Hell hath no fury like a bunch of alpha women pissed off at the slow pace of cancer research." Or something along those lines. How could we help scientists provide new therapies to cancer patients at a much faster pace? For starters, everyone we thought needed to realize that they had a stake in this fight. How? Persuade the broadcast networks to collaborate in a new way, donating airtime to simultaneously air a 1-hour star-studded fundraising special. The other key component is teamwork, mandate collaboration among scientists at different institutions. Scientists who had once been arch rivals and fierce competitors now take family vacations together. 3 television specials and $260 million later, an incredible Nobel laureate-led scientific advisory committee selects our grantees. We now have 10 dream teams of 500 scientists from 100 different institutions, and their research is already saving lives. Our pancreatic cancer dream team has significantly extended survival for late-stage patients, shrinking some malignancies enough so surgery is possible on previously inoperable tumors. And that is just the work of one dream team. Stand Up is a program that was created by the Entertainment Industry Foundation, the philanthropic arm of Hollywood. So our volunteer spokespersons are huge movie and TV stars. Their involvement in our corporate donors' cause-related marketing programs, priceless, as our partner MasterCard would say. There's promising science waiting to be funded, especially in light of the shrinking federal cancer research budget. Having lost both my husband Jay and my sister Emily to this disease, I have learned far too much about cancer. We're at a tremendously exciting intersection of genomics, technology, and now teamwork. This is by far my proudest accomplishment and has taught me that no idea is too big if and in fact it is powered by some very pushy women willing to exploit every connection they have ever made. Competition is great, but just think how much we could all accomplish if we would remember that childhood lesson that there is no I in team. I would love to tell you more about Stand Up to Cancer, so please approach me during the next few days while I'm here in Aspen if you're interested in getting involved. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Ihab Al-Shihabi, raised in Amman, Jordan, and United States. And I live in Virginia, so this is why I have a beautiful, unique accent. You know, so my big idea, let me confess here, my big idea, it did not come from me only. It came from roughly 49 million Americans, based on a research and based on a focus group. The big idea in simple term, it's really a news channel for the 21st century. A news channel for the 21st century. Let's take a few moments. I think I don't have moments, I have few seconds here, and reflect. If you have the chance and you have the opportunity to launch a news channel for the 21st century, how does it look like? What do you think the content will be? Let me try to answer it. And let me try to answer it through the 49 million that we have researched well, plus the thought leadership. Number one, I think the one they are envisioning, they need fact-based, unbiased, informative, heavy investment in investigative journalism. They want fact, they want real news. The second one, they are looking really to cover a story from the human angle side. Not story about celebrities, not story around politicians. Yes, we need to cover celebrities, politicians. But we have to cover a story from an angle where is the human side, from an angle where the American voice elevated, from an angle where issues that most matter to American audience, it's being elevated, discussed. At the same time, they are looking for one-stop shop for news. They are looking for one-stop shop for local news, domestic news, international news, better understanding for news around the block, around the globe, to interconnect and reflect the impact on the community. We are looking for a news channel that cover an area no other news has covered. So what technology we are looking for? Of course, this channel will born with a digital platform that will allow seamless conversion. You should be able to look at the linear programming, digital programming, apps, and get the same information. At the same time, we should have a two-way communication. It's not anymore a radio style where the signal is go one straight. It should be two-way. The audience should be able to interact with the producers. In the planning of the show, the audience should be able to interact and enrich the content. And this is what we call it, the news channel for the 21st centuries. And this is what Al Jazeera America is committed to invest. And this is what Al Jazeera America is willing to do, to participate and create a new model for the news channel of the 21st century. So please be tuned for August 20th. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Leibson. I'm a professor of economics at Harvard. And I want to tell you about an idea that goes back to Odysseus, who tied himself to the mast to escape a rush to the sirens. Now, today we have other temptations. Not so many sirens. We have scotch. We have cigarettes. We have cocaine. We have Big Macs. We have late night television. And today, we're also thinking about different ways of committing ourselves, of tying ourselves to the mast to resist these temptations. So we have apps you download, and you can stop yourself from looking at YouTube all day. And we have personal trainers who yell at us when we don't do 30 sit-ups. And we have Christmas clubs. And yet, in the realm of retirement saving, we're moving in exactly the opposite direction. In the realm of retirement saving, we have 401ks and IRAs where the money is basically liquid, and there's no way to tie it up. You can take the money out of your IRA to buy a home, for education, for health expenses, and there's no penalty. And even if you just want to buy skis, you can take it out with a 10% penalty. It's a liquid account, and there's no option to tie your hands. There's no ability, and that's because the government has set a rule up vis-a-vis retirement saving, which says this is the way it's going to be for everyone. There is no choice. And what we've gotten in return is a terrible retirement saving system in which half the money that goes in leaks out. Every year, $100 billion leak out of IRAs and 401ks before retirement. Now, why not imagine a different system in which instead of telling everyone you have to have a liquid retirement saving account, we instead say we're going to build something like the defined benefit plans of a generation ago, where we still let people obviously contribute to these accounts, but we give people the option to decide how much liquidity they want. Do they want to tie their own hands? Let that be people's choice. In our work, we found, and I'll talk about this tomorrow, that people are actually eager to tie their own hands. So let's take a lesson from Odysseus and have the government at least bless that as an option, not a requirement, at least as far as retirement saving. Thank you.
Hi. I'll drink it. Walter drank it. It's fine. So it might make me write a biography. So I'm Jeff Goldberg from The Atlantic, and the good news is that we're almost done. The bad news is that I have a lot of ideas. And for those of you who haven't been here before, my role in this is to suggest some bad ideas on the theory that this isn't called the Aspen Good Ideas Festival. Often from this stage, I talk about big issues, but Middle East peace, preventing genocide. I want to talk about some smaller bore issues today, talk about a couple of things that I've been working on. One of them is I started a campaign to convince the American produce industry to stop putting stickers on every individual piece of fruit sold in America. I don't know if it will affect climate change or not, but I just find it really annoying. Another project I've been working on over the past year, I'm stepping up my campaign to convert Mormon missionaries to Judaism, which I do mainly just to see the expression on their face. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about a subject that's very much in the news today, which is the institution of marriage. One of the reasons I've been thinking about this so much is that tomorrow is actually my 20th wedding anniversary. There are people in this room who are like, 20, really? 20, you know, at 60, tell us a story. But but it's and I know what a lot of you are thinking right now. How can one woman get so lucky? And by the way, I should mention, because you all don't have anything else to do, I should mention a number of people here have asked me, how do you go about celebrating a wedding anniversary at the Aspen Ideas Festival? So let me just give you just open a parenthetical here and tell you what tomorrow looks like. We're waking up early. We're going to have breakfast at the PepsiCo tent because I'm trying to get my entire anniversary underwritten by several major American corporations. At 8 a.m., we're going to a very romantic panel discussion with Karl Rove. After that panel, we're going to take a carriage ride through the campus, except that because there are no carriages, what we're going to do is just get Walter to drive us around in circles in his golf cart. And at noon, obviously, free hot dogs. It doesn't get any better than this. So what I want to say and what I'm about to say is not a reflection at all on my own personal marriage, which is perfect in every way. But I want to suggest an uncomfortable idea, which is that it might be time to talk about banning heterosexual marriage. I bring this up because as I imagine there are some heterosexuals in this room. And I understand how people could take this personally, but if you, there's three main reasons to talk about this issue. The first is aesthetic. Studies have shown that heterosexual marriage leads directly to sweatpants, and not only does heterosexual marriage lead directly to sweatpants, it often leads to wearing sweatpants while driving a minivan. And here's the interesting thing. This is not a problem that afflicts gay people. I met a gay couple with 4 kids who don't have a minivan, and I simply don't understand how this works. In this particular sense, I find gay life as much a mystery as Justice Scalia finds gay life a mystery. The second problem is that heterosexual marriage is actually a failing institution in America. People who do get married are getting much later. The divorce rate remains very high. 40% of children born in the U.S. today are born to single mothers. The 60% of Americans who don't have college degrees, their marriage patterns are now mimicking the patterns of the lowest income Americans. And this is having a profound impact on children. We know, study after study shows this. We know that children who are raised by single parents are much more likely to drop out of school, much more likely to get in trouble with the law, much more likely to themselves become single parents. And this is becoming a horrible problem, and it doesn't sometimes seem salvageable. Third reason is simply this. It's very important that we not negatively impact gay marriage. And heterosexuals are doing such a poor job of being married that we don't want to impact a positive development like gay marriage. There was an interesting piece in The Atlantic last month by Liza Mundy who talked about how homosexual marriages, gay marriages, are actually much happier than straight marriages. And she says one of the reasons for this is that in a same gender marriage, the roles, the chore roles and the responsibility roles are not predetermined by societal norms, so they have to be discussed. Another reason apparently is that gay men are better at communicating, whatever that is. And so we certainly don't want our own problems in the heterosexual American community to affect gay marriage. So we're left with some very unpleasant options, but we have to confront this as an issue, I think. The first option is to obviously get rid of it and replace it with something like a commune experience. I lived on a commune once. It's fine for a couple of weeks until you realize that no one actually showers. Polygamy is a possibility, because on the theory that if 2 parents are better than 1, 6 parents are better than 2. The other thing that we can do as a society is focus on economic and social programs that actually strengthen the besieged middle class, that raise the value of marriage, that help Americans understand that marriage is not only the economic bedrock of America, but the bedrock of our stability, and we could refocus our attempts to rebuild this most important institution. You didn't think I was going to end on a serious note, but it's absolutely true. And by the way, one more note before I introduce our next guest. From what I'm told, the 20th wedding anniversary gift is a Tory birch bag stuffed with diamonds. In case it's that or aluminum, I'm not really sure, but I think it's the Tory birch bark. And so now, and we're almost home, and it is, I think this is one of the best ideas you're going to experience at the Aspen Ideas Festival. It's my pleasure to introduce the founding conductor of the National Security Agency String Quartet, Yo-Yo Ma.
Even though I'm the conductor of the NSA, I lost my badge. Can I get a replica? I mean, thank you so much for your kind words and your wisdom. Happy anniversary and good luck. So I think ideas come to me when I ask myself questions, often ones that respond to need. Sometimes I just ask things like, what makes someone happy? What makes someone fulfilled? What makes us feel most alive? Today, I'd like to talk about something that you may all know about. I didn't invent it. It's about turning STEM to STEAM. Now, you know STEM as in the education for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Today I'd like to talk about something that's slightly different in terms of STEM to STEAM. And STEAM, as you know, that extra A is for arts, culture, and humanities. So what I'd like to talk about, it's not just about education in K through 12, but how we use the power of STEAM, how we learn with it, how we use it, how we live it. Now, we all know that stories and narratives form the basis of who we are, what we believe in, and how we act, where we come from, how we feel, and how others feel. When we tell our story using all of our senses, with touch, with our eyes, with our ears, our experiences, with movement, we make that memorable. Then we become curious. We start to want to learn more. We care more, and our world becomes bigger. When that happens, we take the should out of learning. We become passionate about learning. We want to share that passion with others. And we want to be useful, to create a movement, a call to national service for our youth called the Franklin Project. We write books on great innovators, Franklin, Einstein, Jobs, big suck up, sorry. We connect artists and musicians together, calling them citizen artists and citizen musicians, all in the service of creating a national imagination, of creating our history, one that we can be proud of. And it all starts with turning STEM into STEAM. And now for the A part of this, for the STEAM part. It starts with getting to the inside, jumping in, taking a risk with full participation. It starts with all of us getting in tune with one another. Are you ready to all get in tune with me? would you please stand up? And I need some help because we're going to make this memorable if you really focus on Damien, who's going to help me with what we're about to do. I'm going to start like a mouse sweep.
Louder! Everybody! Last one. Welcome the citizen artists, Christina Pato, Little Buck, and Yo-Yo Ma. Woo! Welcome to the Ideas Festival. Please join us in Dorhoser for the opening reception. Thank you so much.